Welcome, fellow bookworms, to TBR's Den. My name is Whitney, and today we have my weekly wrap for the week of January 12th through the 18th. I think I had a pretty good week as far as reading. Not amazing or anything like that, but a pretty solid week, I would say. I did have to take Adeline into the vet on the 13th, Tuesday the 13th. And so I ended up getting a digital book for that so that I could just read that on my phone without having to take a book with me. So that plays in there. And that did not go well. So I was very frustrated and very upset. And so that night I ended up just playing World of Warcraft. Then the Burning Crusade was supposed to be launched that night as well. It kind of didn't work. And so it ended up getting launched the next night. And my brother-in-law wanted to create a group with the Blood Elves that got released when the Burning Crusade did. So basically with World of Warcraft, you have the live game, which I don't like the way it looks, so we never play that. And then you have like the classic versions of the game. And so they'll come out with like the expansions that they released, back in the day. And so right now it's on the Pandarian expansion, which is what me and my husband play. His brother doesn't really like that. He likes like the classic World of Warcraft. And so he's been playing that. But when the Burning Crusade launched, he wanted us to create a group and play it together. So we created a group on that to play for that, the more classic where you really have to grind. It's not a smooth sailing. So once that came out and got released, we created our characters and played that one night. And we've just been playing a lot of World of Warcraft because, I've been a little bit stressed about the vet clinic. I used to work there and such, but basically they made 3 mistakes, which just in my mind, and the mistakes they made were absolutely unacceptable. I get mistakes happen, but in this case, like, it really made me mad. First, they misquoted me, which vaccines are the most thing you quote the most at a veterinary clinic. And when I went in and made the appointment, like, you could tell this girl, I don't know how long she's worked there, but you could tell she's pretty new. And she was kind of looking to the other 2 for help, and they weren't giving it to her. So she only quoted me the exam fee and not the vaccine itself. And so it was $30 more for each pet, which is upsetting in itself. But it's like, whatever. Like, it's not all her fault because the other girls didn't help her out at all. But really, you should know the vaccine prices because that's the number one thing you quote. Then when I brought the boys in, they gave Marley parvo distemper. And she never asked me. Like, literally, she was like, you have to, fill out the sheet, even though I just updated my information. They have you sign a new sheet each new year, which is fine. But when I worked there, we would just verify the information, and if it was all the same, we were like, okay, like, and we would just take it. Obviously, they're juggling dogs and such, like, so we would just do it and copy the information over. Not a huge deal. She's like, no, you have to do it. So, like, fine, whatever. And so I do it, give it back to her, and then never talks to me again. And I wrote in the check-in sheet, what I was there for, and of course the appointment, it says what I'm there for. But parvo distemper never crossed my lips because Marley is 11. He really does not need it at this point. And gave him parvo distemper and charged me for it, and nobody apologized other than the girl in the back, like, oh, I'm sorry, like, I should have checked. And it's like, but I would assume, like, if I'm working in the back, because, I've worked in the back as well, that if it's written down, like, I would assume it. But yeah, you should have verified. But I'm more like the girls in the front, they never even asked, they just assumed. I'm more mad at them. So it's like, whatever, pay for Adeline's because I'm bringing her in the next week. So I bring her in on Tuesday, and it all fine, whatever. Come out, and I tell the girl, it's the little new girl, who's so timid and scared. And I'm like, I paid for it last week, so it should all be paid for. She's like, yeah, you have a credit of, and I'm like, I shouldn't have a credit. Like, did you give her a 1-year rabies? Yeah. And I'm like, so mad at this point. And the other girl who checked me out the week before wasn't there. And so the office manager was up front helping. And I tried to let the previous week go, even though I was mad about it all week. Like, I was so frustrated. I tried to just let it go because I know how the office manager is when mistakes happen, even if they're slight mistakes. Like, you didn't type in an email into the computer. Like, she gets very upset. And we don't even use email really all that much for like reminders or anything. They're very like old school as far as like paper, and sending out the reminders and such. So anyway, I know how she gets, and so I didn't want to get the girls in trouble, so I just tried to let it go. Well, she happened to be up there, and at this point, it didn't matter because I was still mad from last week, and then another mistake. And I clearly, when I made the appointment, I said 3 year, and when I wrote it in the check-in log, I wrote 3 year, and you should know by working there when you look and see, okay, she's had this many, she had 3 years last year. Why would I get a 1 year? Like, no. So I was so mad. But thankfully, the office manager was up there. She's like, we weren't charging you for this, so I'll fix it. But it's just so frustrating. I'm like, this shouldn't happen. Like, this is basic. Like, and I get if you're new and they're obviously not working as a team, and the front office staff is not friendly whatsoever. Clearly not working as teammates. And yeah, but this is the third mistake that shouldn't have happened. And now I have to bring cats who are difficult to get in the first place. Now I have to bring her in next year instead of 3 years? Like, no. Like, I'm so mad. So that was really frustrating. I was stressed out. I always get stressed when I have to go in the vet clinic anyway because I do have like trauma from working in the vet clinic. And I always end up having like bad dreams and such when I have to go in. And so, yeah, it was just really frustrating. So, playing World of Warcraft and just kind of relaxing, I didn't do a whole lot of reading. I just kind of like did different things during the day and in the evening, and then read at night. But I did read. And then my husband and I did go this weekend to get some groceries, so that kind of took away. And like I said, we played a little bit more. And then I spent a lot of time with the book I'm reading with him the last couple days because we're just trying to push through. So kind of let's go back to the beginning. So I did talk about this book last week, The Life Impossible by Matt Haig. I was almost done with it when I talked to you guys last week, and I did finish this. This was a library book, and I enjoyed it enough. I got my own copy. I ordered it from Thrift Books. And in really good shape too, so that was nice because that's not always the case with thrift books. And yeah, ended up giving this 4 stars. I did wrap up that reading vlog, which will be out this Friday. So if you want more information on this, definitely check that out. But you basically have this woman who lost her son when he was young and then recently became a widow. She's older, she's like 72. And an old colleague of her gave her this house in Spain, and she's kind of just floundering, like not really living. And so she decides to go ahead and go. And so she takes a chance and she goes. And there's kind of a mystery surrounding this woman's disappearance. There's kind of this sci fi element, but it's very light. It's, as I said last week, it's kind of like magical realism, but make it sci fi, which was really enjoyable. I really like that aspect. And so, yeah, 4 stars for me, and I really liked it. This is my favorite book I've read by that author so far. Then I had Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. So, this was another library book for that video. I wanted to turn the library books in when I took Adeline in for her vaccine. So I looked on Libby because that was one of the main reasons I went to the library. So I looked on Libby to see if they happened to have the audio, and they did. So I decided I'd listen to it so that way I can just get the book turned in. I made it 12 minutes in, and I had a feeling this wasn't going to be a book for me, based on what I heard people say about it. I just had a feeling it wasn't for me, and I was right because it feels like you have like the very wealthy, um, the first 12 minutes, like talking about all the name designer brands they're wearing and very toxic like love relationship, and like he's sleeping with another girl and she's like, I'm not upset about that, but clearly she is. And like, and like this, well off person and this person, and it's just like the lifestyles of the rich and famous and toxic relationship. And I was like, yeah, I'm not here for that. So more of a taste test than a true DNF. And so yeah, that one's done. And then, like I said, I wanted a digital book for when I took Frataline in. Um, just in case you're wondering, sometimes I call her Adeline. That's her name, but she is a very like my way or the highway kind of cat, and we call her Frataline. So, in case you're wondering why I keep switching between Adeline and Frataline, that's why. But anyway, I wanted just a digital book so I didn't have to haul in a book and I could have something I wanted to read. And last year, I had this author reach out to me to send me a book called Bound in Blood by Shawn David Brink. And so I read that one. Wasn't a huge fan of that one. He was actually going through some health issues at the time. He let me know when I did my review of it, like he was going through health issues at the time. But wasn't a fan of that one. At the same time, I decided to read his other adult book called Pets for Legion, which I really, really loved. And he also let me know, like, I just knew about those two books, and he also let me know he does YA books under Shawn D. Brink, so just his middle initial instead of the name. And so I had gotten one at that time called My Gypsy War Diary, and I just never got to it. And so I had that, and I was like, that seems like perfect. Young adult should read quickly. This really read more, and I don't know for sure. I believe it's young adult, but I could be mistaken. Like it's been a while. I think he said young adult, but it could be aimed for middle grade. It read like higher middle grade, lower young adult is kind of the age range it read in to me. And so basically, you have this boy, and the first part of the book is just talking about his move from New Mexico to Nebraska, and him befriending his elderly neighbor. And so it's just kind of like slice of life, and talking about their development of that friendship and such. The characters were so over the top. Like at one point, actually at a couple points, the old lady's like knee slapping, laughing, and to me, like, nobody actually does that. Like, I mean, maybe, but I've never seen anybody actually knee slap, And so, and just like some of the responses and such were very over the top, which I don't personally love. But that in and of itself was fine. I did actually really enjoy the characters. And so that's the first part. And it starts off with like this dark, stormy night, this dangerous situation. And so then he's talking about like, how he kind of got to that point, like moving here and developing this friendship. And then it kind of goes into the mystery of this and the danger of it. And basically the bad guys are the gypsies. And it did say in the book, like the one character did say, like, not all gypsies are bad, but this group was horrible. But at the same time, like the tone and the presentation was like, they're gypsies, they're bad. Not that these were bad people and this group was bad, then they happened to be gypsies. And so that kind of tone was a little bit off for me, kind of just was like a little bit of an ick there. The biggest thing that dropped it down, because I actually really enjoyed, like they said, the characters and kind of the premise of like the mystery, and there's like a little bit of a treasure hunt aspect. I actually enjoyed that. The biggest thing that dropped it down to me, considering the age range, is the hyper emphasis of the weapons and the violence in the book. There's a pew pew, and the way he handles that in a couple situations just was like, for the age range you're writing for, no. Just no. There's a knife, the there's explosive devices, and it just it's just like for that age range, like no. And I'm not a person, I don't think that just because it's written for a younger audience doesn't mean it can't have like dark themes and such. But I do think care needs to be taken in the way it's presented. And like I said, it was overly emphasized. And for that age range, I don't think it should have been. And so that's really what dropped it down for me. I ended up giving it 2 stars. But it had potential. Like it definitely had potential. And I did kind of like the premise of it. I just wish, it hadn't been so focused on that group. And again, gypsies is not necessarily a PC term anymore. And so yeah, there's that, but it was really the violence and the overemphasis on the weapons that kind of gave me the ick. Then I did finish The Collective by Alison Gaylin. This I also read for that reading vlog. My Gypsy War Diary, I didn't. That wasn't part of that vlog. It just happened to kind of overlap with it. It was the 3 library books and then 2 priority books, and this was being one of them. So if you want more information, check out my vlog on Friday. And this one, I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was the ending that kind of let it down. You basically have this woman, and she lost her daughter, and the guy who is at fault never saw justice, and then he ends up living his life, and he gets this humanitarian reward, and so she's kind of spiraling because of that, and she ends up going viral in a video, and that leads to this woman reaching out to her and inviting her to join this group of other women who have lost their children whose killers never saw justice. And so it's kind of like a revenge plot type thing. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked kind of the deeper conversations in here about morality and such, but the ending kind of just let me down a little bit. But I'm really looking forward to talking about this with my family at the end of the month. My husband and I did push through a lot. The Seven Rings by Nora Roberts. We have 73 pages left to go. So we will for sure finish this either tonight or tomorrow. We might push through tonight. Otherwise, we'll just read, whatever amount and then finish it up tomorrow. I'm not sure how that will work out, but we've been not enjoying this, and so we've really been trying to push through. This series really could have been one book, and that's so frustrating to me. Nora Roberts is very strict as far as in May she does her standalone romantic suspense. In November she does her whatever number in the series, her normally it's a trilogy, and so each year for 3 years she's doing one of those books in that trilogy, and then she does write as JD Robb, which I don't care about those. I don't read those, and so she releases that each year as well. And so it feels like at this point, she needs to semi-retire or something, because she's just doing it to do it. This should have been one book. Nothing happened in book 2. Book 1 is a lot of the setup, so it was slow paced as well. But because you're getting that setup, it didn't feel just why am I even reading this book like these other 2? You're getting a lot of the setup, and then the ending was oh god goodness, the next 2 books are going to be so good. Yeah, and then we get nothing, and so book 2, I don't even see the point of it, because nothing happened romantically or with the plot line. In this one, it was very repetitive as far as rehashing, which I get. You need to let us know, what happened. It's been a year in between, so just a quick recap of what was going on in the other books. Fine, I get that. But it was very, repetitive. Basically just told us the whole plot for the other books. Instead of just giving us a quick recap. And it's very repetitive. It's still setting up the conflict. It's we've read 2 books at this point. We know the conflict. And then it doesn't even just do that in the beginning. It's still setting up the conflict, and the discussions the characters are setting up the conflict basically. And I'm we already know the conflict. So stop telling us about it and get on with solving it. And it's not doing that. And basically the premise is you have Sonia, and she didn't know, her dad didn't know, she didn't know that he had a twin brother, and the twin brother has recently passed, and she inherits this house in Maine. Her fiance cheated on her with her cousin, and so she kind of just needs a fresh break. They work at the same company, so she just wants a fresh start. So she goes and takes this inheritance. Of course, there's rules. She has to live there. Yada yada yada. Well, this house, this manor, is inhabited by a bunch of different ghosts, one of which is a very evil witch. And this evil witch basically wants the manor for herself. And so each generation she has killed a bride. And so there's 7 brides that have passed on, and she's killed them and takes the ring. And so the whole premise is she kind of have to figure out a way to solve this curse and find the rings and get them back and get rid of this witch. Nothing happens. Even when there's like exciting moments, like the witch is doing something, it's just so quick and so over that it's just kind of like, like, oh, well, that happened. Okay, great. And so it's so frustrating because I love this author. And so seeing how downhill her work, like, I still enjoy reading the books, but they're not exciting and they're just boring. And like the repetitiveness of this one, I'm like, what are you doing? You need to semi-retire. You've been doing this for so long. Like, you need to, I don't want you to retire fully because I still want books from you, but you're not creating good content anymore. Like, and so you're just doing it to do it instead of having fresh ideas and creating good content. You're just doing it to do it. And the premise of this one is good, but she didn't do anything with it. And so I'm so very frustrated with this. So yeah, 73 pages. We will finish this tonight. I will also say, actually, before I go into the other ones, so I'm participating in Kim from Expedition Through Pages, her next round of her TBR game. TBR Trek is what it's called this year. And this year, there's 4 teams, and then Kim's just like the gameplay host. And so I'm on Team Dryad with Manny from Reading with Manny. There's Team Gnomes with Ruby Red. There's Team Pirates with Julie, who is Kim's mom, and Team Satyrs, which is Amy at A Star Reads, and her cousin Jordan. So we got a great group of teams and hosts. And so yesterday was the first live show, and I'm using this book for one of the prompts. And so if you don't want spoilers for the live show, I'll link that down below. But if you don't want spoilers, just go ahead and skip off this video. I'm just going to be talking about the books I'm reading this week now at this point. And that deals with the game. So like I said, I'm on Team Dryad, and we actually had a prompt to start once the teams were announced, like the game was announced and then the hosts were announced, and we were assigned teams. We actually got a prompt to read before the live show that would give us points to get something we could use in gameplay. And Team Dryad actually got the most points. So go Team Dryad. And then we're getting 3 prompts this round, this year, for this round of gameplay each time. And so we got we kind of did not do well. We got on a very bad path, and it's just going to basically, it just kind of loops around, so we're not moving very far on the main path because we kind of went on the offshoot. The other teams went on the offshoot, all 3 of them on the same offshoot. That's actually going to get them further along on the path, so we're definitely going to have to play catch up for sure. And the prompts we got were hard. Like, everybody else is getting free picks and such, and we got hard prompts. So the first one doesn't matter. So I'll come to it when I get to that book. But for our second prompt, we actually ended up with the prompt. It was a challenge prompt, and it was each of the other teams will choose one of their prompts to give us. So we ended up with 2 extra books we need to read. Luckily, the other teams were super nice, so we really appreciate that. So 2 of the teams gave us their free picks to read, and the other team gave us a book with setting in a holiday destination. So the setting just has to be a holiday destination. So I'm actually using this book for that prompt because this takes place in Maine. And I did, Google just to verify. I think of Maine as a holiday, like touristy. People go there to vacation, to go sailing and have the seafood and such, is kind of my thought process. And Google said yes. And so this takes place in Maine. And so that's my holiday destination setting. And so I will be fulfilling that prompt first because we will finish this, like I said, either tonight or tomorrow for sure. The next book that I did start last night is Unseen by Molly Burke, who is a blind YouTube content creator and also like a public speaker as well. It's really cool because it does have the braille on her name and on the title. And so it's Unseen, How I Lost My Vision But Found My Voice. So I'm only 47 pages in. And right now, so far, she's basically talking about kind of how she went blind and kind of how she got into public speaking. And as she graduated high school, her first experience in the working world, both positive and negative. And she's really talking, like where I ended it last night, she's talking about this group she worked for, EAO. I forget what it stands for. Evolving as One. So EAO, it's a group called Evolving as One. And so right now she got an opportunity to work for them and do like speaking engagements and such. And so that's where we're at right now. And I really appreciate this book because, you know, she's blind. And so she really took accessibility into account. And I wish more publishers and authors would do that. Because with the collective too, when I started this one, like I opened it and I was like, holy cow, like this is nice because the font was big, the spacing was nice, the color of the pages, like it was really easy on the eyes. And same thing with this one, and she mentions that. So she's like, I'm choosing to center the disability community with every choice I've made, from the cover design to the font selection. While most books use a serif font, which is deemed easier to read for the average person, I have chosen Atkinson Hyperlegible, a sans serif font that is more legible for those who are low vision or have print reading disabilities like dyslexia. For the same reason, I have chosen to use bold-based text instead of using italics, which also helps. The font size and spacing, along with the color of the paper used, were all taken into consideration to make this a comfortable reading experience for my community. And then she also has the audiobook that she narrates herself. And that is just so nice. Like when I tell you this is so easy on the eyes, it's so easy on the eyes. And I would honestly rather a thicker book that's easier on my eyes to read because I'm very much a physical reader. I don't particularly like reading ebooks. Those actually do hurt my eyes. I don't know why. And I'm not a big audio person. So it's really nice to have a book that's just really easy. The color of the paper, like it's not super bright white, so it's easy on the eyes, the spacing and the font. Like this was so easy and it's so nice. Like I'm not even kidding. This one I'm using for one of the free picks that the other teams gave us. So there is that one. Next, I haven't started this yet. I might start this today or I might wait till tomorrow because I'm planning on doing more chores tomorrow that will allow me to listen to this. And that's the Golem and the Jinni by, I don't know if it's Helene or Helen Wecker. I think it's Helene because it has that extra E at the end. And I do have the audiobook for this from Libby. And so I'm planning on doing that. And for this one, we got a group prompt, which was to make an alphabet chain using book titles, and the chain needs to be 10 books long. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like starting at A, it just has to be 10 books long somewhere in the alphabet. It looks like we're going to be doing A to, I think J is the 10th letter. And so I put this in for that. I had two options for like the beginning, but nobody had, there was a lot of people that had B, which I have a B option. So I decided to go with G because nobody put for that. And so this is the next priority. I want to get this done so we can do the chain. Boo Boo does what she wants, even if she's stepping on poor little kitties. So that will do the chain, help with the chain. And then once we have a chain, then we'll all submit the books. So that way we know which books to submit basically. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to starting this. This is basically like a historical, and you have a golem and a Jinni that end up kind of they all both end up. I'll just read the synopsis because I'm having trouble. So it tells the story of two supernatural creatures who appear mysteriously in 1899 New York. Chava is a golem, a creature made of clay brought to life by a strange man who dabbles in dark, Kabbalistic magic. When her master dies at sea on the voyage from Poland, she is unmoored and adrift as the ship arrives in New York Harbor. Ahmed is a Jinni, a being of fire born in the ancient Syrian deserts, trapped in an old copper flask by a Bedouin wizard centuries ago. He was released accidentally by a tinsmith in a lower Manhattan shop. Struggling to make their way in this strange new world, the Golem and Jinni try to fit in with their neighbors while masking their true natures. Surrounding them is a community of immigrants, the coffee house owner Miriam Badil, a pillar of wisdom and support for her Syrian neighbors, the solitary ice cream maker Selah, a damaged man cursed by tragedy, the kind and caring Rabbi Meyer and his beleaguered nephew Michael, whose sheltering house receives newly arrived Jewish men, the adventurous young socialite Sophia Winston, and the enigmatic Joseph Shaw, a dangerous man driven by ferocious ambition and esoteric wisdom. Meeting by chance, the two creatures become unlikely friends whose tenuous attachment challenges their opposing natures until the night a terrifying incident drives them back into their separate worlds. But a powerful menace will soon bring the Golem and the Jinni together again, threatening their existence and forcing them to make a fateful choice. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this, and it will help my team out for that group prompt. So I'm hoping to finish those first two books, The Seven Rings and Unseen, today or tomorrow, and then start The Golem and the Jinni today or tomorrow as well. Then the next one I chose for the other free pick. I really like having a hardcover book and then a softcover book to read in bed going at the same time. So for my free pick, I was looking at my paperbacks, and I went with this one because I also have the third book, and this is the second book in the series, and I have the third book on my TBR. So I was like, they're all kind of similar length, and if I get this one knocked off my TBR, that frees up me being able to pick up the next one as well. And that's The Girl in the Tower, which is the second in the Winter Night trilogy by Katherine Arden. The first is The Bear and the Nightingale, which I absolutely love, like based on kind of Russian folklore. And yeah, I'm really excited to continue the series. We're following Vasilisa, and in the first book, you basically have like the old gods, like the villagers would leave like little gifts for the god of the hearth or whatever. And her mother comes in because it's basically her father is like the landowner, and then you have all the people working underneath him. Um, and she has her stepmother, and her stepmother is very religious and like the new god. Like we no, like you can't leave offerings to anything else. Like we worship the new god, and that because they don't have the protection of the old gods, they end up with this dark entity starting to rise um, in the forest. And so, yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to finally getting continuing the series, because I meant to finish the series up last year and I just wasn't able to do it. So that's the next one I will be picking up, along with Anathema by Keri Lake. So the very first prompt we got in the game was, we had a gameplay, so we had to make a choice, and we ended up with trees on the cover again, which was our first prompt that we got before the live show. And at that time, this book is not officially on my TBR. It's just one I wanted to read. And so I only had one other book that had trees or greenery on the cover, and I read that, as that first prompt going in before the live show. And so this is the only other book I have that's on my radar that I want to read. It is 600 pages. So it's chunky. And I'm definitely not going to be reading this one in bed. So this one I want to start this week. It will probably carry over through next week, but we have until February 21st. So it's not like I got plenty of time. Because this is for something, I want to prioritize these reads. So my goal is to start this while I'm reading this as well, and then work on other paperbacks while I read this one. But I'm very much looking forward to this one. So there are whispers about what lurks in Witchnell, the forest where sinners go to die. The villagers call it the Eating Woods because what's taken is never given back. Only those who have lost their senses would dare go near it, or the banished. So I'm very, very excited about this one, but that one's a little bit lower priority. Like I said, I want to get the 2 I've already started, and the one for the alphabet chain done, so that way we can wrap that one up. And then the other 2 will I just want to get done right away, so that way it's done for the gameplay, and then I can focus on the rest of the books on my TBR. So that's what I have coming up. That's what I finished and read this past week. So I finished 3 books, tried one, and I made good progress on one book and started another. So that's pretty good because that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books that were in the rotation last week. Granted, one I just barely started last night, and one I did not get very far in, but that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. And finishing those 3 books was nice. And the one book I was already almost done with as well. But still, not a bad week. And the lineup I have going forward is going to be really nice. Like I said, the Nora Roberts book we're almost done with, and Unseen should read really fast. Got the audio for the Golem and the Jinni, so I could be doing other things while I'm listening to that. And then the 2 physical reads, which I'll have going on at the same time. So not bad at all. I would love to know if you've read any of these or if you're interested in reading any of these now that I've talked about them a little bit. Or a book you have coming up that you've enjoyed, that you're looking forward to, a book you have coming up that you're looking forward to. If you're part of the Expedition Through Pages TBR Trek game, I'd love to know that as well, which team you're on, because it's so hard to keep track. Go Team Dryads, but of course, I'm not a very competitive person by nature, so I just want everybody to do well. Although the pirates are sneaky, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes going forward. But I'm gonna go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.